One of my favorite things about exploring the medium of anime in the decade plus that I've considered myself a fan is discovering a particular creator or group of creators who I feel are pushing the boundaries of the medium to their absolute limits in order to express their ideas. Oftentimes, these amount to works being helmed by widely popular and critically acclaimed creators in the space, such as the works of directors Hiroyuki Imaishi and Masaaki Yuasa, to name a few of my personal favorites. But in an industry wherein 70 plus new anime are being produced every 3 months, it's easy for more obscure or less widely palatable works to fall under the cracks of the average anime fan's purview, and oftentimes mine as well. It's not so often that I get to discover someone whose works and talents I feel are being underappreciated in the space, so when this does happen, it really excites me. Not because they aren't getting the proper attention that they deserve, and that's a good thing, but because I can use what little reach I have to help guide people towards something that really resonates with me in an attempt to expand the popularity of something that I really appreciate. I think if you were to ask me what my reason for gravitating towards anime is over other audiovisual mediums, the first thing I would probably cite is freedom of expression. What tends to resonate with me the most when it comes to art are works that I feel are going all out in their exploration of their ideas, and in my opinion, no one is pushing this envelope further than the Japanese animation industry. Seeing as how animation is a non-literal, emblematic medium, it isn't bound by the same limitations of live-action television and film, and as such, it can express a much broader scope of possibilities, or at the very least more possibilities that resonate with me personally. That's not to say the medium doesn't have limitations of its own, because it certainly does, but as they say, limitations give way to creativity, and no one man in the anime industry right now embodies this statement more than Kenji Iwaisawa. Kenji Iwaisawa is a man who doesn't know the meaning of the word limitation. The bulk of his career as a filmmaker up until this point has been defined by a DIY approach to anime creation. Rather than creating anime traditionally with a fully fledged professional staff behind him to rely on, all of his works that he's created so far have been produced independently, with an overwhelming majority of the work necessary for these pieces to come to fruition being handled entirely by the man himself. I feel that he isn't being properly recognized by the anime fandom at large for the monumental level of effort that he's been putting in and the sheer raw talent that he possesses, which shines through in his most ambitious creation to date. But before we get to that, let's establish a little background about the guy. Kenji Iwaisawa is someone who has always had a passion for the arts. He grew up drawing his own manga when he was young before taking an interest in live-action filmmaking. Right after graduating high school, he soon found himself working as an apprentice to film director Teruo Ishii, who led the production of 83 films from 1957 to 2001. While working in the field of live-action filmmaking, he soon found himself dabbling in animation and began creating a handful of short, independently animated productions, starting with The Man in the Tunnel in 2008 when he was in just his mid-20s. That's an insanely young age to be producing and releasing fully fledged animated projects, and it really speaks to the level of dedication that Iwaisawa has towards his craftsmanship. Watching these short films gives us a glimpse into what best summarizes Iwaisawa's style, that being expressive, fluid, and often jittery rotoscoping animation. For those unaware, rotoscoping is an animation technique wherein live-action footage is first shot and then drawn over frame by frame in order to convey the movement in an animated style. Combined with the rotoscoping are other techniques such as smears to convey speedy movement and eclectic and unique filming methods to give shots lively and inventive camera movement. Seeing as how Iwaisawa has had ties to the live-action film industry from an early point in his career, it's not hard to trace the natural evolution of his style up until this point. Sometime around roughly 2010, Iwaisawa would meet and become friends with independent mangaka Hiroyuki Ohashi at a part-time job, and soon began adapting his manga to animation, starting with the one-shot Yama in 2010 before undergoing one of the most massive undertakings in the medium of anime this century. To call On-Gaku our sound an ambitious project would be grossly underselling it. While he did scrape together a small handful of other independent animators to help him with the project, Iwaisawa would handle a huge bulk of over 40,000 drawings for the film almost entirely by himself over the course of 7.5 years of production. Not to mention that he's listed as having directed, written, storyboarded, and edited the project with little to no help as well. He even went so far as to have hosted and filmed a real live concert for the film's final climactic scene, which amounted to over 3,000 hand-painted frames of animation. All of this, mind you, is on a shoestring budget which was independently financed by the man himself, leading to him eventually crowdfunding a small amount of money after he ran out in order to facilitate the film's completion. There's no sugarcoating it. This is one of the most impressive and inspiring stories I've heard in all of my years of anime fandom. If you know anything about anime creation, or if you've ever tried to create anything at all, then you should know just how ridiculous of a feat this is. After all, what first got soon-to-be legendary anime director Makoto Shinkai's name out there was a similarly independently produced 24-minute anime short film called Voices of a Distant Star in 2002. But even for as impressive as it is that Voices was made, Shinkai did have the advantage of having access to, at the time, advanced CG production programs which he had on his computer from working at video game development company Nihon Falcom. The only tools at Iwaisawa's disposal for the making of the 71-minute On-Gaku were his camera, a very small handful of independent rotoscope actors which actually included the original mangaka himself, a few freelance animators which included students from a local art university, and good old pencils and paper. On-Gaku is a film born out of raw, unfiltered passion. It wasn't made by a large company with major corporate backing and professional industry talent, but by a man with a vision who made no excuses and used what little resources were available to him to share something which resonated with him with the world. And his risk paid off, as the film took home a modest handful of awards and would garner him his first real industry-wide recognition. My favorite aspect of On-Gaku is how the themes found within the film reflect and parallel the ethos of its production. Just like its bombastic and climactic concert scene, On-Gaku as a film can best be described as an explosion of passion. Like Kenji Iwaisawa, the film director, Kenji, the main character of the movie, is someone who discovers and explores his passion through the arts. When him and his ragtag group of street punk friends, who are all bored with the mundane routine of picking fights with rival schools, accidentally stumble their way into forming an amateur band. While Kenji and his bandmates may not be traditionally talented in the same way that industry professional musicians are, what shines through in their very choppy and primitive sounding music is the unbridled desire to express themselves through their art and break away from the ordinary grind of everyday life. They have zero musical experience, don't actually own any of the necessary equipment to form a band, and Kenji doesn't even know how to tell the difference between a regular guitar and a bass guitar. But these limitations aren't going to stop them from expressing themselves, because logic be damned, they just want to do it, and this perfectly mirrors how the film was put together. On-Gaku doesn't look, sound, feel, or even emote similarly to your average industry standard anime production. It doesn't feature stock character designs, background art, animation cuts, sound effects, etc., but instead features elements that are a little bit more unique, inventive, and striking. This film's production cycle was one that was entirely unique to itself and itself alone, making it really stand out as something special, amateur or not. Audio-visually, it may not be everyone's cup of tea at first as a result, but I think if you're willing to give way to how abnormal the film looks and feels, you may come to realize that it far exceeds its peers in terms of making an effective and resonant piece of art. What most effectively helps sell the very raw and inspirational themes of the film is just how grounded and real everything feels. Beyond its setting of your typical Japanese high school, the film uses realistic sound effects and sparse background music to give the film naturalistic sensibilities. And Iwaisawa punctuated this by hiring non-voice actors in the casting of its characters in order to give the dialogue a natural feel which would best match the tone of the film. This tone also helps to sell the comedy of the film, which is another one of its greatest strengths. The film has a very deadpan, dry sense of humor, and there's no shortage of hilarious moments that are guaranteed to make you chuckle. I really love this one scene wherein Kenji first presents the idea to form a band and the shot just fixates on this dead expression he has for like 15 real-life seconds before he finally gets the words out. It's like he had to spend all that time mustering up the strength necessary to say something. There's an amazing gag towards the end of the film in the festival scene where the previously stripped back sounding acoustic folk group gets on stage and just starts shredding these dope-ass classic sounding electric guitar riffs, only for the guitar player strap to rip, which causes them and the band to just immediately get depressed and walk off stage in the middle of their song. It gets the dumbest laugh out of me every time I watch it. These gags are some of the most brilliantly directed scenes in the entire movie. They're all timed so perfectly and have so much punch to them that I can't help but smile every time one of them comes up. Even the music that they play, for how awe-inspiring it is equal parts hilarious, like it's just three guys hammering the same note and drum in sync with each other over and over again. This movie is a feel-good movie through and through, one that entertains you through inspiration and vice versa. As someone who has always had the idea to try making YouTube videos and is only just getting around to it now, I really resonate with the core message found within this film, as I think it's something we can all learn from. If you've got a dream that you want to make a reality, then make like Nike and just fucking do it. Don't sit around and worry about whether or not you're good at what you're doing or worry about what limitations are in your way. Kenji Iwaisawa didn't let limitations stop him from creating his vision, and Kenji and his bandmates didn't let limitations stop them from from getting up on stage. Let your passion run wild and do what you want to do, hell or high water. That's what I think this film really embodies. I could go on and on about how great this movie is and how many interesting and resonant ideas it has within it, but I think I'll stop here. Suffice it to say, if you love anime as much as I do and you're looking for a great feel-good movie, then you need to give On-Gaku a watch as soon as possible. You might be wondering why I'm telling you about Kenji Iwaisawa now of all times when his career-defining work up until this point is over 5 years old by now, and that's actually because he's got a new film just around the corner called Hyakuemu, or 100 Meters. It's based on a manga done by Uoto, aka the person who penned Orb on the Movements of Earth. Seeing how that anime adaptation turned out, combined with getting one of the industry's most unique visionary directors in Iwaisawa to adapt this other manga of his, and I can't help but be excited for this film's release. Iwaisawa has gone on to form his very own studio called Rock and Roll Mountain, which is one of the most effortlessly cool studio names in the industry by the way, and now houses a comparatively modest-sized staff to help him out with this new film. However, the trailer footage for the film still showcases Iwaisawa's signature rotoscoped style. I'm really looking forward to this movie, and I think based on how strongly Iwaisawa's way of going about things resonates with me, I won't be disappointed. I hope this video has convinced you to look into Kenji Iwaisawa and his body of work so far. If you can, I'd highly recommend picking up the official Blu-ray release of On-Gaku by G-Kids, not only because you'd be supporting independent animation by doing so, on top of owning one of the greatest anime movies ever made, but also because the package includes some of Iwaisawa's short films which otherwise don't seem to be available online, and a pretty in-depth making-of documentary about one of the most interesting and unique anime productions of all time. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe and stick around on my channel as I've got plenty more videos coming down the pipeline, and give the video a like and comment while you're at it as it helps out a lot in YouTube's stupid algorithm. You can follow me on Twitter at luckiestclover with an E to keep up with what I'm doing and interact with me if you'd like. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.